Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. On Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern, Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
Welcome to Inspired Conversations, my friends. I'm your host, Linda Joy, Mindset Mojo mentor, intentional living guide, and publisher of the beloved Aspire magazine, about to enter her 17th year of inspiring women to live their best lives. Now, if you haven't claimed your free subscription, yes, it's still free. Visit subscribe to aspire.com. Grab your subscription along with dozens of transformational free digital gifts to support you on your journey. You know, ladies, I don't know about you, but I know what burnout is. And if you identify as an empath, highly sensitive woman, or an overgiver, and I'm raising my hand there, and are feeling burned out and depleted, then you're in the right place, my friend. Spiritual teacher Anne Bérubé, author of the Burnout Antidote, shares how you can access your innate capacity to heal and explains how your burnout can become a gateway to embodied wisdom and vitality. Anne Bérubé is a spiritual teacher with an uncommon ability to share her story and insights in a way that awakens the inner wisdom in others. She helps people free themselves from the societal and parental conditioning that's holding them back from realizing the highest calling of their own soul. Her work has also allowed her to share the stage with renowned self-help luminaries, including best-selling authors Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Elizabeth Gilbert, Gabrielle Bernstein, Neal Donald Walsh, and many other visionary leaders. You can learn more at annebérubé.com. Welcome, Anne.
Oh, thank you so much, Linda. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, I got to tell you, when I saw the topic, I'm like, oh my, because I think in the last few years, especially, everyone's level of overwhelm, stress, burnout has been magnified. And when you are identified, as I also do, as an empath, a highly sensitive, it can really get you spinning, can't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's why I wrote the book specifically for those people, because we need light workers and people who are here to support other people and to bring more light. And, those people are empaths and highly sensitive, and they tend to overgive. When you find yourself in this line of service, it's easy to overdo it because, you have a big heart, you have, the desire and the impulse to make a difference. And it is difficult to put boundaries. And especially for those who grew up in environments where they didn't put boundaries in order to be accepted, to belong, to feel safe, right? And that's one of the big topics of the book, is that a lot of our kind of the reason why we serve comes from those conditioned beliefs that we acquired when we were children. And not consciously, but mostly because we needed to belong in that, in our family. We needed to sometimes stay safe emotionally or physically. Connection and love was so important that we didn't want to lose that. So we did learn to overgive and to extend ourselves. And then we, end up in a world where a lot of the conversations around service and spirituality, sometimes, there's a synonym with service with martyr, where, we were told that if you just give everything you've got, like you're selfless, that is a good spiritual person. And often it is tied to religion. But what I found is that it's actually the opposite. Like when you deplete yourself and when you forget about yourself in the name of service, you're actually not as powerful as you can be. And you also can build resentment in a lot of people, like you mentioned, in the past few years, just kind of thrown in the towel. They're like, I can't do this anymore. And we need all the light workers that we can get, and we need them to be healthy, and we need it to be happy, and we need them to feel fulfilled. It's so important in order to go forward.
I just love this topic because I've been a spiritual entrepreneur for 30 years. And in my first business, I didn't have any emotional boundaries. I was what you call an overgiver, because I believe a lot of us in this field, in personal and spiritual development, we sometimes don't know where our boundaries are and where everyone else is. And I was doing 14, 16-hour days, won all kinds of business awards, was given to charities and doing motivational speaking at shelters, but at the cost to myself. And I believed, like you just shared, I believed those beliefs that life and business was supposed to be that way came from childhood. Give, and ignore your own needs. And then I had a stroke at 40. And
I'm so sorry to hear that. Wow.
Well, here's the thing, Ian. The only reason I bring that up is there were signs all along the way, and I didn't listen. And I wish I listened immediately after the mini stroke, but it took me another year to realize, wait a minute, I cannot be of service, which is what you were just sharing about, if I can't even keep my own light bright. And that began my journey back to myself. So in your work, do you see that with a lot of like life and spiritual coaches and yoga teachers, that wound of I have to give and at the cost of myself?
I do a lot. And I, most of my clientele are women, not all of them, but most of them. And it is a belief that's passed down through generations as well, right? The selfless mother, the selfless feminine figure who just gives everything, and doesn't think about herself first. And so we're trying to go against the grain of, thousands of years of like, conditioning too, right? That it's kind of passed down through from life to life and through our ancestry. So yes, I see that quite a bit. And I myself, and I do share the story in the book, like I myself had a limiting belief around service. I thought that once you're on the path, once you found your dharma, you know why you're here, you found your calling, I believe that you couldn't burn out. I thought that that's it. Like you're connected to your why, and then you'll have all the energy in the world. And that is why I wrote the book, because I realized that no, that is absolutely not true. And there's another wound there to be explored around embodied service and embodied empathy, which means my power and my medicine have to come first, and I have to feel full. I have to be full. And then from that full cup, I can decide and I can choose to give and to be there for people and to show up for other people. And then from that place, I can really have reverence for the other person's light, instead of kind of coming out of myself and being in their problems and being in their emotions and losing my connection to my power. I'm grounded, I'm in myself, and I'm showing up because it's who I am, not because people need me. And that is a huge difference, because I believe that a lot of us do what we do because we have a need to be needed. And when we're needed, we know who we are. But when we give from that place of needing to be needed or needing to please, we don't have access to our core essence and that full power. And we're kind of cheating ourselves too from that medicine that we hold, and our impact is not as great, and we deplete ourselves as well. So yes, I see that quite a bit. And I felt like, because of my own experience, I felt like it was time to redefine service for the light worker.
That's so beautiful. I love the word you use, like embodied emotion, embodied service. And as you were speaking, I thought back to that time when I was in that energy, and I can see now, I didn't see it then. There was a wound. I was serving from a wound I had, where if I give enough, then I will be worthy. And that was
Yes.
coming from childhood trauma and other stuff. And it wasn't until I identified why I was pushing and serving and the wound that was there,
Yeah.
that I could like completely heal. And from that place of healing, I've been able to birth this brand, Aspire, all her sister media brands, and serve over 40,000 subscribers and a thriving community of women. And in my other life is I work with spiritual female entrepreneurs to help them bring their message to a larger audience.
It's
And
beautiful.
well, Anne, I see so much of these wounds that you're just talking about, this desire to need at the cost to themselves or their business, like they serve from the place of need. So it sounds like you also work with, female entrepreneurs in these fields. You must see the ripple effect that wound has on their business too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it can be frustrating, because then we don't understand why the business gets, has a stunted growth, or it just stops feeling exciting, or it stops growing. And then we don't understand why. It should, right? Like, we're led and guided, and this is divine. But the impact of operating from that womb, the way you said it so beautifully, is, what happens at the end is that we burn out, and we don't have the same desire to continue. And the solution is not to stop, but the solution, and what I suggest in the book, is to really meet that inner child who holds that wound, and then have a conversation with her or him, and get into this intimate dialogue with her, and asking a question, like in the meditation, in our daily meditation: who are you when you're not needed? Who were you before you needed to please to know who you were? Who was that little girl or that little boy before the world started to take from you? And those are big questions, but they really allow us to connect with an energy that the body remembers. The body remembers this identity. It might not be a linear memory, it might not be an actual vivid conscious memory, but the body remembers how it felt to be powerful without other people's need of us, and without our identity being tied to other people. And so when we meet the wound and we allow the movement in the body, because the approach of the healing work that I do is process transformation, and it all happens at the level of the impersonal body, right? Before the stories, before the ego, before the narrative around what happened, it was integrated in the cells of the body, in the fascia, and the organs, and the skin, and the bones, and the muscles. And so when we really connect with that original wound of, okay, in order to be seen, to be loved, and to be who I'm supposed to be, to belong in this family, who was I? And the answer also lives in the body, because the body remembers how that felt to have this light completely uninterrupted moving through the body.
I'm loving this conversation. And I want to talk more about it when we come back from our first break, especially the inner child, because for me, doing inner child work changed my life. So when we come back, let's talk about diving in a little deeper to what the inner child has to do with the responsibilities and stress that we have right now in our adult life. Because some people are like, what's that got to do with now? And so let's talk about that. We'll be right back. I am with Anne Bérubé, and you can learn more at annebérubé.com. And I want to spell that for you. It's ANNEBERUBE.com. We'll be right back, my friends.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM radio network.
Inspiration for a Woman's Soul. Aspire Magazine, inspiring and supporting women on the path of self-discovery. Claim your free digital subscription today, which includes access to thousands of dollars of personal development bonus gifts from Team Inspiration partners. Claim your Aspire Magazine subscription today at subscribetoaspire.com.
Hey America, we need to have a little talk. We've got more food than we know what to do with in this country, yet 17 million kids in America are struggling with hunger. Makes no sense. Luckily, the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks has volunteers gathering excess food and getting it to hungry kids. They're kind of like food angels. Hey, become a food angel yourself by supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTRFM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
This is OTRFM, part of the IOM radio network.
Welcome back. You're listening to Inspired Conversations. With me today is the author of The Burnout Antidote, Anne Bérubé. So Anne, right before the break, we were talking about the inner child. And I know I had this question a long time ago, and I know our listeners may be too. It's like, what the heck does my inner child have to do with the stress and responsibilities I'm struggling with now in this moment? What would you say to that question?
So everyday stress and reaction that we have to a stressful situation, when it's an automatic response, it's kind of out of habit, it's a wiring issue, right? It's like our nervous system has been set up a long time ago to react to these situations in a certain way. And so that's why sometimes someone says something to us at work or even our partner, and it's really not that big of a deal, but our response and our reaction and the way our sympathetic system kicks in and we become really agitated or annoyed or we feel hurt. It feels sometimes like it's completely out of proportion. And that's because the nervous system, which is the brainstem, which is your, reptilian brain, doesn't know the difference between what happened then and what's happening now. And so in order to rewire your nervous system, to let it know that you are safe, that really these situations are not life-threatening, we have to address the original wound. We have to address what happened to that child the very first time that it was, the impulse of life was shut down. And what I mean by that is that, as a child, you're just showing up in the fullness of your being, speaking the truth of your experience, enthusiastic about life moment to moment. And then something happens, whether it's, a parent's mental health issues, or it's addiction, or there's substance abuse, or there's just violence in the home. And then it gets shut down with words or with actions or just the mood in the room. And so that first time is okay, right? The body goes, okay, that didn't feel great, but being sensitive and being innocent is so important to me because it's who I am. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm going to keep being myself. And then the second, third, fourth time that happens, eventually the body goes, no, wait, like we need to protect this purity. We need to protect this innocence. And it starts to build what I call like these layers of an onion, right? And it wires our nervous system to keep us safe from these emotional and sometimes physical threats. And then we're an adult, we're completely safe. I mean, we can go to another house if we want. If we feel unsafe, we could go in another relationship, but our body remembers a different story and we engage automatically and out of habit from that place. So that's why addressing the original womb is so powerful, Linda, because we go to the root. We could talk and talk in talk therapy for years and years around the story of what happened when we were younger. But when we go into the body and we feel and sense where that wound is, and there's different ways I talk about in the book on how to do that. We notice where it lives in the body, and then we love it. We talk to it like it's a little girl or a little boy that we want to protect, and we say, hi, sweetheart, I love you so much. We talk to ourselves the way we would talk to our own daughter or son or a small child that we want to protect. And then we invite the movement that never happened, right? One of the big things that creates suffering in adults is that when the trauma happened as a child, it wasn't witnessed. It's not so much that the trauma happened because we can't protect our children, and our parents couldn't protect us from all the trauma, but it's what creates the suffering is when the trauma happened, there was no one there to witness exactly how we felt, because often we were asked to feel something different or to not feel at all. And so to be witnessed is so powerful. It's basically saying, I see you, I love you. Tell me how it feels. Tell me exactly how it is. So when you're talking to that inner child inside yourself and you're addressing where it's showing up, the trauma is showing up in the body, you're being your own witness. You're saying what you felt back there you weren't allowed to process it. I'm going to help you do that because I'm here and I'm the mother that you always wish you had.
So beautifully said. There's a quote one of my old clients, Dr. Pritchard, wrote, and she said, if you wouldn't say it to your best friend, why are you saying it to yourself? Right? You know how we that negative self-talk. So we have a few moments before our next break. I want to talk about something you said about going into the original wound. Your book is about helping people access their innate capacity to heal, right? And what really strikes me is you share how burnout can actually become a gateway to embodied wisdom. So we have another 3 minutes before the next break. So I'd love for you to start there. Like, if someone's feeling burnout right now and they're feeling overwhelmed and think life can't change, is your belief and what you've learned with working with clients is, okay, now the work can begin and it's going to become a gateway?
Yes. I see burnout as a gift, sometimes even as a necessary passage to, more light And we see it as something like we failed, or we're not enough, or we must be doing something wrong. We blame ourselves so quickly, and then that doesn't help. This kind of attitude towards ourselves doesn't help. We get even worse. And so I talk about in the book how burnout is actually a wonderful gift, and it's an invitation. And so it's first of all, it's your body saying, like, I'm going to protect you, and I'm not going to allow you to hurt yourself more. We're going to just stop. We're going to stop giving you the ability to do what you're doing right now, because the way you're doing it is not serving you anymore. And so it's not as a punishment, but it's as an invitation to become more light-like, to become more who you were supposed to be, who you came here to be. And so when burnout comes, if we, at that point, it's because we have, like you've mentioned before, ignore signs for a long time. And, a lot of the stories in the book, come from clients, but a lot of them also come from myself. And I'm a type A Capricorn, quite driven kind of person. And so for me, I don't hear the subtle signs as much as I would like to. They have to get quite loud for me to pay attention. And so when burnout comes, it's because there's no more reserve anymore for you to continue to operate in this way. And there is so much goodness and fulfillment and power and light in this new way of living your life that your body wants that for you. And that's why burnout happens. So that's the lens that I describe in the book. And so when we go into the body with our breath and our attention, and we start to communicate with the body and ask it, how are you doing? Why are you feeling so depleted? And really pay attention at a more abstract level, then we start to see the gift in why burnout is happening. And we start to see the little breadcrumbs that we can start to follow that will take us to our core essence and more vitality.
It's beautiful. And the word that really spoke to me is an invitation to become more. And I want to dive deeper into this conversation when we come back. But yeah, I wrote that down because I love that word, invitation. So we'll be right back, my friends. I am with Anne Bérubé of AnneBerubé.com, and we're talking about antidote to burnout for empaths and sensitives, and how accessing you can have the power to access your innate capacity to heal, and how burnout can become a gateway to embodied wisdom and vitality. Learn more at her website, AnneBerubé.com. We'll be right back, my friends.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Are you feeling the call to unleash your feminine wisdom, hone your empathic gifts, and rise as the goddess you are? You're not alone, my beautiful friend. Crystal Cockerham, spiritual mentor and certified red tent facilitator, trained in both shamanic and priestess practices, works with awakened, empathic women around the world to unlock their shackles of pain, shame, and self-condemnation so they can reclaim their sovereignty and liberate themselves from the world's perceptions. As the founder of Wisdom Awakens and an international best-selling author, Crystal uses her own intuitive blend of spiritual midwifery and energy healing to support women on their journey of transformation. You'll find supportive guidance and community in Crystal's programs, retreats, and sacred offerings. If you're feeling the call to embrace your feminine power, learn more about Crystal's supportive services at crystalcockerham.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, Their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
This is Terry Van Horn, and I want to invite you to join me for my weekly radio show, Healing Light, on OMTimes Radio every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On Healing Light, we want to bring love, light, and blessings into your world. You can find out more about us at www.healinglightonline.com. Blessings.
Me, a cat moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
You're listening to Inspired Conversations. Welcome back. This is your host, Linda Joy, and with me today is Anne Bérubé. We're talking, we're talking about healing the old wounds so that we can live our best lives, and how we can learn to view burnout from a new lens that you were just explaining, Anne, right before the break. And everything you said resonated, and I can relate. I'm a Scorpio, and I'll be 60 this year. But in my other business, I was in that energy. I didn't know how to hear my inner wisdom. I didn't know how to hear my truth. I just kept pushing, striving, and the divine I see now would give me like little flicks on the ear, like, hello, slow down. And I would just brush them off, like, yeah, I don't have time for that. Then I'd get the little tap in the head, a life situation, which was a little harder. Still didn't listen in. And I would always wait for the cosmic 2x4s, like the strobe. And finally one day I just said, what am I doing? This is exhausting. Why don't I figure out how to listen? And really, when I heard you say invitation to become more, that's what it brought up for me. It was like suddenly when I was willing to do things differently, it's almost like my inner wisdom started to rise to the surface. And that's the phrase I use for my truth. Does that resonate with your journey or the journey of your clients? How you first have to have the willingness to want something different.
And I think most people would answer yes to that question, that, especially if there are people who are on the path and they're light workers, or they help people, or, they want to grow into their full capacity as a healer, right? And so you're absolutely right that first you have to want to. And, a few, maybe 5-6 years ago, I decided to stop accepting clients who were sent by someone else, right? Because until you yourself want to do the work and are willing to and have that self-love and self-responsibility, then we will just go in circles, and it's not going to be fulfilling for any of us, right? And so, yes, absolutely. The willingness is so important. And for all the coaches and therapists and healers out there, make sure that the person, it's their choice, that they want and they're ready to do this work. But, what I've noticed as well is that if we let our clients know that this burnout is not happening to punish you, but it's actually your next lifetime in this lifetime that wants to come through. Because right now, with the acceleration of consciousness that's happening on the planet, we have so many opportunities to live multiple lifetimes in one. And I don't know if you've experienced that, Linda, where you feel like you've accomplished something and that could have been one life and it would have been plenty and so much and fulfilling. But once that's done, there's another invitation. And there you are, shifting gears, changing how you do things, and on to the next expansion. And it's all with more expansion. And so burnout happens because you're invited by your own light to express even more and in a different way. When you see it like that, it's so beautiful, it's divine, and it's purposeful, and it's a soul choice. Your soul is ready. You wouldn't be sent this information if you weren't capable and ready. So I like letting know my clients that the more that you're becoming is on the other side of this surrender.
That's beautiful. And I love the phrase you use, expansion, because that's what it feels like, evolution to me, every new part of my journey. A few times throughout our talk together, you've mentioned boundaries, right? And for empaths and sensitives, that was something that I've really had to learn, and I'm 60 and I think I'm still learning, especially my energetic boundaries. So how do we establish healthy boundaries that may prevent us from burning out and feeling resentful?
Well, what I talk a lot about in the book is how to recognize when you need to put a boundary. And a boundary is just a limit in relationship. That's it. So it's how much time am I willing, or am I capable, or want to, which is more important to say, want to spend in this relationship. And sometimes, you'll, within 30 seconds of being in a conversation with someone, you right away, your body goes, no, we are done. But we don't listen. We go like, nah, I should listen. I should listen because this person needs me, or I should listen because this person loves me. I should listen because I'm good at what I do. All those reasons are not good enough. If your body is reacting, and so what I mean by that is either extreme fatigue, right? We've all had this experience of talking to someone, and within 30 seconds, a minute, we're feeling this intense fatigue and we're like, what is happening? And, some people might call it like an energy vampire, right? Just someone who, for some reason, energetically is connected to your wound as opposed to connected to your light. And it just suddenly just drains you by the second. And so that is a clear sign from your body to remove yourself from that conversation. Don't try to negotiate with your soul and your body. Just listen and remove yourself from that conversation. Remove yourself from that situation, from that space, and go somewhere else. And that's really, really important. What I've noticed, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I've found that to be true in my own life over the years too. So please continue.
Yeah. And one of the things that happened with me is I noticed that there was a person that when I received a text from that person, my body would go into fight or flight. And intellectually, that didn't make a lot of sense because this person had good intentions. This person, loves me. But every time I would get a text from that person, I would have a little jolt. And so I decided to put a boundary and ask this person, to just not text me for a month or two. And what happened was really tremendous because, and this person was someone I had in my life for a very long time. So for the first time, I was experiencing not being in contact with that person. And the first week went by, nothing really changed. And the second week, I remember just driving and my body would spontaneously surrender and I just would start crying. I'd be on the road and just weeping, tears would come down. And that was because I had never, or in a very long time, I never experienced my body being safe, feeling like it didn't have to be vigilant in protection in this relationship. And so I was able to access a whole nother level of healing because I gave myself the permission to put this boundary. And so notice when you get texts or certain emails, not everybody has, can have access to your time and energy.
Yes. Oh, that's a big one for me. I have strong boundaries now about that. I call it a glitch in my matrix when something comes in at me energetically, and you feel it's palpable. And we're going to take our last break, and then we're going to come back for our last segment. What I'd love to make sure that you have time to share is some of the strategies that someone could use right now if they are feeling burnt out or overwhelmed. And we'll be back in a moment, my friends, for the last segment with Anne Bérubé of AnneBerubé.com, author of The Burnout Antidote. We'll be right back.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Are you feeling called to clear your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual blockages? That's your soul and environment speaking to you and asking you to uncover all the clutter that is preventing you from living the life you envision. Felicia Messina DeHady, soul coaching master practitioner and trainer and teacher of advanced interior alignment and medicine wheel feng shui, supports her international clientele by creating inner and outer transformation in their environments and their lives by combining elements from her extensive training, experience, and intuition. Felicia is a master intuitive coach, certified by Colette Baron-Reed, and has served as a master mentor for Denise Linn's Elemental Space Clearing certification course, as well as her Ultimate Clutter Clearing. Explore her offerings, including certification courses in Feng Shui, space clearing, soul coaching, and Reiki at FeliciaDeHady.com.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. Thanks for being here. So, Anne, for those who are listening and identify as an empath, highly sensitive woman, or overgiver, what's one of the first things you would recommend they do on their path to healing burnout? Aside from picking up a copy of the book, my friend, you have to get a copy of the book. But in this conversation, Anne, what would you share with our listeners?
So what I tell people is that, stop because you're more tired than you think. We're used to go, and we stay busy. And when you stop long enough for the dizziness to go away, you realize how exhausted you actually are. And when you're exhausted, you can't access wisdom and medicine and, your intuition. And so what I recommend to everyone is to, give yourself space and time, whether it's through a daily practice, and I have multiple in the book, of just deep breathing and bringing your attention in the body with the breath. So breath and attention are the number two tools, like the number one tools that I talk about in the book to help you on this journey. And so The other way would be to also take a silent retreat for yourself, or go on, do a healing workshop. But you do have to take some time away from your daily habits. And it doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't have to be long. It could be just 3 minutes a day. But you do have to stop. And that can be uncomfortable. And you might also start to have all kinds of, objections to stopping. I can't do that. That's not what a good healer does. That's not what a good business person does. I have, so much debt, or I have, I'm taking care of my elderly mom. I can't stop. Well, if we don't stop and interrupt the pattern, nothing will change. So here comes again this willingness. Well, are you willing to shift? Because what's going to give eventually is you. You're going to get ill and you'll leave. And then we won't have your light. We will be missing your medicine and your wisdom.
That is so true. And it's something, if we don't make time now to create space for healing, we will receive a cosmic 2x4 that will demand that we rest. Like you said, serious illness, an accident, something. And so would you rather be forced into rest or choose to rest? And that was a big thing for me 20 years ago. It's like, oh no, I'm done with the cosmic 2x4s,
Yeah.
And it was like almost like a mindset shift of, how can I build more? For me, one of my core, I don't want to say values, but one of my core needs is spaciousness. Spaciousness in my schedule, spaciousness in my life. And I never used to have that, Anne, because I was always serving, pushing, striving from that wound. And it took me a long time to just do what you just recommended to them, to start with 3 minutes. Maybe that'll become 2 hours every week that you nurture yourself in a way that feels good. But the most important part is that you start in whatever way fits your life right now.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And we forget that there's no one's going to come and make us do it. No one's going to take responsibility for our health. And no one's going to radically love ourselves the way that we need to. We have to do that for ourselves. We have to show up exactly like the mother we always wish we had, for ourselves, with so much kindness and tenderness and attentiveness and patience. And this relationship shift, because it is a shift. I mean, most of my clients, and including myself, when I started this work, the inner dialogue, the way we talk to ourselves, is so mean. It's so mean. Nobody speaks to us like that. And so to shift to this tender, loving, just present, unwavering mother voice changes everything. It's hard. And I do talk about it in the book. There's some exercise you can do to start, like a mirror exercise, right? Where you just look at yourself in the mirror and you start by saying, I'm beautiful. I love you so much. You're amazing. And you mean it like a mother would talk to her child.
It's so beautiful. And it's like elevating, flipping the script, right? Because
Yes.
I think it runs in the background. We're not even aware of it until we slow down and take pause. And as you said, it's like, I would never say those words to someone I love. Then why am I saying it to myself?
Yeah.
But for the majority of our lives, I'll just speak for myself, for the majority of my life, I didn't even know those scripts were running.
Yeah.
Right. So every decision was based on these silent scripts. And that exercise that you just shared is such a powerful way to rescript everything, to bring an awareness to what we're saying to ourselves, because we are so mean, as you said to us.
Yeah, we really are. And it's a big shift. And there's a little book that I recommend to people. It's called The Impersonal Life. by Joseph Benner. And that was a book that was recommended to me by Wayne Dyer. So he'd said to me, Anne, this is the best piece of channeled information I've ever read. And some people could read it and see it as something completely like religious and only like high level spiritual. But when you pay attention to it in a self-love kind of way, and you love yourself as God, as the universe,
Yes.
and you know that you are that, whew, like that's love. That just changes everything in your life. So I do recommend that book for that purpose.
Could you repeat the name? I have the Impersonal Life and who the author is?
Joseph Benner.
You know, that's getting ordered.
So Joseph Benner, yeah, he wrote it in the turn of the 20th century, and he was, I believe he was a priest, and then he actually wrote it in secret because he didn't want to be excommunicated, because it is about being God, right? Which you can't say in the church.
And back then especially.
Yeah,
I love all the old classics.
I know, and it was published as anonymous first, but now we know who it was.
Well, thank you for that gift. And I believe that we're all a piece of the divine, right? Because how could we not be? Exactly. Right? Like the ocean and the streams that run in, it's all one. So for me, I'm really curious about the book, so thank you for that. We have a few minutes left. Is there an additional piece of wisdom, more than you've already shared, that you'd love to leave our listeners with, or a tip or strategy, insight that they can take away with them today?
Well, tip, pay attention to your breath. Like the breath it sounds so simple, but it is incredibly powerful when you know how to breathe deeply. So what I describe in the book is in through the nose for 4 counts, and then out through the mouth for 8, constricting the throat. So this is very different. And if you breathe like this, even for 3 minutes, you'll see that you'll start to have access to a whole other level of yourself. And all the meditations and the exercise are recorded on my website. So people are reading the book and they want to hear my voice guide them through the exercises. They're all available on my website as well. The other thing I want to mention is how, we do need to redefine empathy. As spiritual seekers and light workers, we think that empathy is everything, but when we're empaths and highly sensitive people, empathy can be toxic. And so I do talk a lot about in the book about embodied empathy, and really allowing yourself to be full and be in reverence for your own life first, and then you'll be able to be in reverence for the other person's light, as opposed to having this contagion of emotion. So those are 2 things I wanted to make sure got in there, Linda.
Well, I'm so grateful that you did. And for all my listeners, I have a lot of spiritual female entrepreneurs that are listening, as well as women on the path of self-discovery. Please grab a copy of the Burnout Antidote, for nothing more than what Anne just said about embodied empathy, because in our fields, there is so much where we're identifying as empaths and becoming a sponge to the toxic energy that we bring into our world. And we can't be our best light if we do that. So I'm so glad that you brought that up, Anne, and have a resource for them to go to. So thank you, my friend, for joining me. This is such an important conversation. Excited to also have you in Aspire magazine. I love sharing messages that I know have the power to transform women's lives. So thank you for the sacred work you're doing in the world.
My pleasure, Linda. It was really great to be in conversation with you, and I want to thank you too for the work that you're doing.
No, thank you, my friend. And of course, I want to invite everyone, visit Anne at AnneBérubé.com. Grab a copy of the Burnout Antidote, visit all the other resources and offerings on her website. You don't have to walk this journey alone, my friend. You just have to be willing to reach out a hand and ask for help. So until next time, my friends, choose love, choose joy, choose happiness. Blessings.
Thanks for listening to Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy. Join our sacred space every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern and meet leading female visionaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. Inspired Conversations with Linda Joy is a soulful venue where guests share the obstacles they've overcome, along with wisdom and lessons learned on their personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic and soulful living.